I hear the cave before I see it. Frostfall breathes in a slow, aching rasp, as if the mountain itself were a wounded animal curled around its pain. The entrance pulses with spindrift and sensor glow, a cold pupil watching us ration our heat like guilty thieves. My suit heaters run on kindness mode, 30-second bursts every 10 minutes, just enough to keep fingers flexible and not waste the last cells in the crate. I am shivering because the schedule says to, because geologist Mira is expected to be efficient and mortal. I am also shivering because the other name, the old one, hums under my tongue like a forbidden frequency. System Commander. I used to make rooms go silent by walking into them. Now I count bolts on a crate to keep my hands from clenching into orders. The storm stampedes across the ridge. Snow grains tick the rock in thin, venomous lines. Carter shouts something about the southern baffle, and I signal acknowledgement without meaning it. My head is full of the map of this cave, its throat, its two hollow lungs, the hairline veins where meltwater hides. The wind dips, just a fraction, like an exhausted pupil nodding off. I take the moment to step outside and check the overhang. That's when the sky comes down. A crash, not like thunder, but like a ship exhaling its last belief in flight. White fire fleas scatter as a module clips the cliff face, spins, and knifes into the drift below the ledge. The shock slaps through my boots and turns the lip of the ice into a cheap promise. I overstride, heel skids, arms pinwheel, and a hand locks around my elbow. Not a yank, not a panic grab, a clamp, decisive and sure, that catches my weight as if my falling were a math problem he already solved in his head. "Got you," he says, and the words are warm enough to fog my HUD. Nate Brooks. The name is etched on his chest plate, letters nicked by old work. His visor has a faint crescent scratch at the upper right, field repaired with a smear of bonding resin. One corner of his mouth lifts like it's pulling a load uphill, stubborn and quiet. He has the stance of a man who has held too many things together with his body because tools weren't close enough, and he couldn't live with the cost of waiting. My protocols, those neat little stacks of priorities, threat matrices, command verbs, tilt half a degree. "Helmet," he mouths, tapping his seal. I follow his glove, see the readout blink amber. He breaks the seal with a hiss. Air knifes his throat. The first breath is a mistake. The second is brave. The third hurts. "Slow," I say, palm up between us, and the training I am not supposed to have anymore slides into my voice like a blade into its sheath. Like this. Inhale low. Hold. Sip, sip, sip. Release. Argon cadence, a trick for thin cold places and long nights on the hull. He copies me. Not the shallow mimicry of a man who wants to look competent, but the exactness of a mechanic who respects tolerances. His shoulders stop trying to be armor. The fog in his visor draws softer ghosts. "Better," he says, the syllables uncoiling from a roughness that lives somewhere behind his chest bone. It lands at the base of my ribs. I nod because if I smile too soon, I will file it as a weakness, and I don't trust my old habits not to weaponize it. Carter's team pours up the ramp, boots hammering, sled runners squealing on the ice. Dr. Emma Lee calls for triage. 2 sensor techs swear about losing the far beacon. Someone drags a recovery crate so close it kisses my shin. The world jolts forward into work. I step into it the way you step into a river you know, and pretend not to fear. Nate stays at my side, matching my pace without owning it. "Heat shields," Carter barks. "We'll lose the entry if that second front shear's left." "Copy," Nate answers, and we're already moving. The panels are awkward, curved like the inside of a giant's rib cage, edges sharp with frost. I plant the base clamps in the drilled sockets. He muscles the arc into place. The shield's composite groans as the wind tests it. The indicator band flickers orange-red. Suspicious. "Angle 2 degrees, I say. He adjusts without questioning the why. I feel the panel settle into the airflow's temper. The band snicks to amber. Again, he decides, and together we tip the curve until the light goes green. The wind spills off the new contour and slides away with a frustrated hiss. We move like we've trained together. We haven't. He reads my stance. I read his reach. It feels like stepping into a shared language we didn't know we studied. The grammar of weight and timing, the syntax of small glances. At the second shield, our shoulders bump. In another life, the one with rank ached into my muscles. I'd have filed the contact as extraneous. Now it is a breadcrumb on a dark path, and I'm too tired to pretend I don't want to follow it. "Brooks, lock the flanges," Carter calls from the interior. "On it," he replies, already at the hinge. I crouch to check the thermal seam. We both reach for the same multi-tool. Our gloves kiss. Current jumps, tiny, irritating, undeniable. He yields first, palms up, smiling that uphill corner. "You first," he says. "Shared protocol," I answer, placing the tool between our hands so the metal lies like a treaty. His gaze flickers to my face, and away, disciplined. We tighten in turn until the seam's micro-thermistors wink green, green, green. Inside the cave, the work lights warm from surgical blue to a sunned amber. Heat pools ankle-high like a timid animal learning to trust. Dr. Lee threads past us with a med satchel, mutters something gentle at the sled crew, and is gone. Carter's silhouette cuts and pastes itself against the baffle, a metronome of urgency. Nate leans closer to make himself heard over the wind. It's an excuse. I let him use it. "Say it again," he asks, voice pitched for me alone. The breathing. Argan cadence lives in muscle more than mouth. I show him. He mirrors me. This time I watch his lips shape the hold and the sip. Not for hunger, but for accuracy. A man practicing a promise he cannot afford to break. The right corner of his mouth climbs half a rung. Something in my chest does the same. I smile back. Small. Real. We haul the third shield into place. The cave's entrance becomes a throat that can choose its own weather. My HUD scrolls a brief green choir of system checks. The storm slaps the structure once, twice, realizes it cannot enter, and goes searching for a weaker door. I point with my chin at a narrow fracture running like a hairline scar across the ice, just beyond the threshold. "Crack," I say. It's the kind of trap that takes ankles when adrenaline is paying for your concentration. He nods, and this time his hand finds my wrist on purpose. Not rescue, calibration. His glove is thick, but the pressure locates my pulse. I step over the fracture, feeling his guidance as a line of heat. I return the courtesy when he crosses, my fingers closing around the seam of his glove and holding just long enough to say, "I see you. Let's not pretend we don't. 2 worlds, 2 accents, 2 metric systems for worth. Under the rules, we are strangers who must trade in tasks and reportable outcomes. Under the skin, something else takes out a lease." "Thank you," he says, when the last shield sings into alignment. He means for the breathing, for the seam, for not making him perform. The words fog and vanish, but the warmth doesn't. "Welcome," I say, and the old command voice sits down and folds its hands like it's learning manners. We test the baffle. The wind presses and gets bored. The sensor mast outside throws a sulky red that winds down to orange. Inside, the amber deepens. Someone laughs, thin, exhausted. Dr. Lee's med scanner chirps agreeable news. Carter claps a gloved hand to Nate's shoulder, in that way leaders do when they're borrowing steadiness. On the walk back to the central area, we pass the recovery crate from the crash. Its lid carries a streak of something like soot. Too dark for snow burn, too matte for ice dust. It smells faintly of scorched plastic and mint, the emergency coolant blend we only use when systems are pushed beyond kindness. Nate's gaze ticks to the mark, then to me. He doesn't ask. I don't volunteer. We both catalog the detail and slide it under later. We stack the tools in neat rows that satisfy the restless part of me that wants all things to report. Nate's knuckles are raw, where the glove seam rubs. I pass him a strip of microgel. He peels, presses, doesn't wince. He says my name once, as if testing the weight. Mira. He doesn't add a question. The name lands between us like a small fire we have agreed to tend. For the first time since I traded the rank for a borrowed badge, I smile without calculating outcomes. The cave exhales, the mountain settles, and somewhere beyond the baffle, the module that fell whispers heat into the snow like a secret. The spark doesn't declare itself in speech. It shows up as a hand at my wrist, a breath we rehearse together, a tool shared without a tug of war. It hides where gloves meet skin, where silence makes room, where the protocols end and people begin. Night on Frostfall isn't darkness, it's pressure. The wind swells and tests every seam we set like a prosecutor, looking for a confession. Carter reads the drop in exterior temperature and swears through his teeth. Dr. Lee checks the med stores and frowns at the freezer burn warnings. The cave hums in amber, barely holding, a small throat against a continent of lungs. We need ice leaf insulation, Carter says. The baffles won't last the second front without it. I know where it grows. Thin blue fans along the wind shadow of a basalt rib, 10 minutes out if the drift behaves. Small, flexible leaves that trap a micro layer of warmer air when braided through the vents. Old argon habitats used them before we learned to print better membranes. Earth never had reason to name them. We use our word because it works. I'll go, I say. Not alone, Nate adds, already snapping a new cell into his lamp. He's tired around the eyes in a way that doesn't ask for sympathy. I have learned to respect that kind of fatigue. It means a person has paid their dues in quiet. Carter studies the storm feed, then us. The look he gives me says he sees more than a geologist. The look he gives Nate says, if anyone's going to bring her back, it's you. He nods once. Linked travel only. 30 minutes out, 30 back, or I call you in. Linked means exactly what it sounds like. One hand in the other's glove clip, pace set by the smaller stride, decisions made at the speed of trust. It is efficient and intimate, which is why hierarchies hate it. At the baffle, the wind hits us like the inside of a turbine. Snow grains sting my jaw through the seal. Headlamps sketch jittery cones across the ice, and the world narrows to the bright oval in front of our boots and the warmth of his hand at my wrist. Ready? He asks, voice a low wire on the comm. Link, I answer, and latch my glove to his. The clip bites and holds. We step into a white that wants to be everything. The cave falls behind us with a finality that makes my ribs feel too small. The storm has found a new register, an upper howl threaded with a bass you don't hear so much as feel, an animal moving through rock. I count my breaths in argon cadence. I hear him match it. Our lamps flick past a half-buried sensor mast, a drift-curled sled track, a shattered ice tooth that could take a thigh if you pretend to be brave. At the basalt rib, the wind slackens just enough to let the leaves be themselves. They glitter, a muted blue under our lamps, hundreds of fans trembling on delicate stems, each the size of a hand. We kneel, clipping and bundling, fingers working in a dance we don't choreograph and don't need to. Smells like iron, Nate says. And mint, I add. Coolant blend. The crash marked the air. He doesn't look at me when he says it, but I hear the thought he almost speaks. Later. We will open that crate. We will count the costs. A gust ambushes from the left, sudden as a door slammed by a giant. It catches my shoulder and spins me into the edge of the rib. My knees go out from under me. I fall hard, breath knocked into sparks. The world tilts to an angle that promises sliding and doesn't care where to. Nate drops with me before gravity can congratulate itself. He flattens his body across mine and anchors us both with boots jammed into the ice and hands braced on the rock. Snow chews at our suits, searching for a path inside. "You good?" His voice is in my ear now, not the comm. He put his helmet close enough to make space a rumor. I laugh, not because it's funny, but because the adrenaline needs somewhere to burn, and it has always chosen sound for me. The laugh fogs his visor. He huffs once in answer, and it turns into a sound that would be a smile in better air. My hand finds the seam at his collar without asking permission. I tug him closer. A bad idea, almost, and I do it anyway because nearly is still not quite. His weight bears down just enough to say, "I am here." The wind roars its disapproval and moves on to harass a different ridge. "Procedure," I say, breathless. "Absolutely," he says, and we both fail to make it sound like anything but wanting. We braid the ice leaf bundles with quick loops, my fingers faster bare. He covers my hands with his for a few seconds at a time to warm them through the glove. Heat is a small currency out here. He spends it on me without itemizing. On the way back, the wind has teeth. We walk with our clip stretched to keep our center of mass low, his shoulder windward of mine. The headlamps dance, and the ice answers with glitter that wants to be stars. The cave lights pulse somewhere ahead, amber beacons promising a version of safety that feels like kindness, purely because it is not this. Inside the baffle, the cave air folds around us like a blanket with a memory. Dr. Lee is there before I can think about pretending I'm fine. She peels my gloves with the brisk care of a field medic who knows tenderness is speed. She warms my hands between her palms, then tucks a heating sachet into each glove like a secret. "Stupid storm," she mutters, which is doctor, for I'm glad you're back. We dump the bundles on the floor by the vents. Nate kneels to weave the first braid. I kneel opposite and catch his rhythm. The leaves open under our touch, exhaling that iron mint ghost. The vents accept the offering and begin to purr. Air shifts. The amber deepens. "Here," he says, and flicks a corner of his thermal blanket free. We share it because efficiency, because procedure, because the world is cold and stingy, and this is one place we don't have to be. The fabric smells like storage. A little dust, a lot of soap, a memory of long trips and short sleep. I lean in until his shoulder steadies the tremor I pretend is from the storm. "Thank you," I whisper into the space where his neck meets collar. The words feel too big for my mouth. He hears them anyway. His reply is low and rough, the kind of sound that could be a promise if we weren't so careful. The cave hum lowers a note, as if to give us a little privacy inside the noise. We finish the braids and fasten them into the baffles. The wind tries to bully its way in and fails. Carter checks the sensor panel and grunts approval that might be gratitude in his language. Dr. Lee hands me a cup with something hot enough to steam my visor. I drink. It tastes like cinnamon and necessity. Between the quips, his about sensors that act like moody wildlife, mine about glyphs etched on the older argon leaves to teach children direction, there are pauses. Not empty. Full of a silence that carries weight without demanding payment. My old programming looks for orders to give. It finds none. It sits down and listens. We are supposed to be technicians and survivors. And we are. But inside the blanket, with iron mint in our noses and heat pooling where our shoulders touch, I feel the second collision, the one with no debris field. The pull stronger than cold. The one that wants a name and only gets a breath. I breathe it anyway. Overnight duty feels like being folded into the cave's ribcage. Heart adjacent. Necessary. Unnoticed. Carter assigns shifts with a stylus and a sigh. He and Dr. Lee in the side bay, catching 2 hours of tactical sleep. Nate and me at the relay corps, babysitting power like it's a stubborn child. The storm taps drum codes on the baffles. The cave answers in amber. Patient, patient, patient. The relay sits in the central ring, a waist-high ring of blue panels that hum when you touch them and sulk when you don't. Ice lamplight strokes the floor into a soft sheen. The air is the exact temperature that keeps thought sharp and fingers uncertain. I dial my suit heaters down 1 notch and pretend it's strategy instead of thrift. Node 3's twitchy, Nate says, squinting at a flutter on the diagnostic strip. Microfracture in the coupler, I answer. We'll need fine work. Gloves off, then. The kind of choice that looks small until your skin meets this air. We unseal at the same time, like divers agreeing on depth. Cold licks my knuckles and settles there. Not cruel, just insistent. His hands are work hands, scars that look like maps drawn in a hurry, nails cut blunt to avoid tragedy, a tendon along his thumb that flexes when he concentrates. I have hands that used to point and make worlds obey. They have learned how to carry. We lean over the panel. The core pulses in a slow, luminous blue, like a sleeping animal whose dreams you don't want to disturb. He angles the light. I seat the coupler. Our fingers touch. On purpose. Shock, yes, but not electricity. Recognition. I feel the old protocols stir with 1,000 measuring questions, and I tell them to hush. They do. For once, they do. Hold, he says, and I feel the word, not the instruction. He steadies the frame with 2 fingers on the bracket, wrist steady as a metronome. I twist the ring. The twitch levels to a soft purr. The strip goes clean. We don't step back. The cave noise filters into a lower key, as if it knows what quiet we need. Through a slit in the baffle, a ribbon of snow spark drifts like a comet that forgot the sky and doesn't mind. Nate's lamp paints my sleeve in glacier colors. I can see my breath and his, 2 threads that try to braid and spill apart. Say your name, he murmurs. I have 10 versions of it. The human one, the geologist's badge, the rank that used to snap into rooms like a blade. The childhood syllables my first mother, curator, trainer, judge, chose for me. I give him the Argon version anyway, because it fits here. 3 soft beats, one held longer than English thinks reasonable, a note that lands on the back of the tongue. He tries it. The first attempt is good on accident. The second is careful. The third is right. Again, I say, for no reason but wanting to hear it. Mira, he says, and the vowel opens a door in my chest. I look at his mouth to learn what he learned. He notices, and his eyes flick up, almost amused, very gentle. My turn, he says. In your language. How do I say? He hesitates. Wry, self-aware. You're safe with me. There are a dozen ways to promise safety in Argon, most of them contractual, all of them demanding a price. I do not teach him those. I give him the version reserved for hauling each other through airlocks in bad light. Short, built from verbs that mean carry and near. He repeats, the consonants softer in his throat than in mine, and still the meaning lands intact. I nod the small nod that says, yes, you did that right. The core hum answers in the same rhythm, or I imagine it. I don't care which. We check the rest of the panel array. He works with a stillness that does not broadcast virtue, and I find myself aligning to it like a needle finding north. At node 5, I drop a bracket. It skitters under the housing and sulks there. I huff, annoyed at the clumsiness. Leave it, he says. but not because he doubts me. He crouches, torso folded, shoulder near my hip, and fishes it out with 2 fingers, and a patience I suspect he reserves for small, important things. When he stands, we're very close. His visor is off. Mine is too. My hair, uncooperative in dry air, has escaped its tie and drifts a white thread across my temple. He lifts a hand, stops. The old world would take. He waits. I decide. I lean into his palm, just enough to answer, and he tucks the strand behind my ear with a care that feels like a message. I will not put you back where you were, only where you want to be. We do not kiss then. We do the small, nearly invisible labor of staying near. We reseat the bracket. We log the repair. We set the panel to a lower, kinder hum. Outside the baffles, the storm tries new arguments. Inside, the relay keeps choosing us. Carter snores once in the side bay, surprised at himself. Dr. Lee's med scanner clicks through a background check of someone's blood gas. The cave keeps breathing. The mountain pretends not to listen. Tell me the word for this blue, Nate says suddenly, chin indicating the core. I taste the air and test a few options. Argon makes a sport of names for cold light. I choose one that also means faithful, and another that also means threshold. And I give him both, because both are true. He chooses the threshold one. Of course he does. Now you, I say, teach me something that matters to you. He considers. My father used to say, when the generator's acting up, don't kick it. Sit down. Take it apart with your mind. Then, take it apart with your hands. That's too many words for a label, I tease. Yeah, he wasn't great at labels. He grins, wry and brief. But he never left a person out in the cold, even when it cost. The word in my language that tries to equal that is service. But service here is dirty with debt. I settle for a smaller phrase that means carry each other. He repeats it until it fits his mouth, and something in me slots into place with a click I feel in my wrists. We do kiss, eventually, after we finish the checklist, after we move our tools to where our future selves will thank us, after we stand, shoulder to shoulder, and pretend to study the blue. The kiss is brief, warm, careful. The kind you give when what you're protecting is not the kiss itself, but the space around it. Don't rush, I whisper, and I hear the command training in the sentence like an old injury. Wasn't planning to, he says, without bravado. We sit with our backs to the relay, legs stretched, feet almost touching. He sips a rationed heat from his canteen and passes it to me. I drink and feel the path it burns down. I think about debts, about the price lists I used to carry like scripture. I look at him and decide. I will pay and be paid in different currency. Outside, the storm changes key again. A high ping stabs through the hum, a signal not from weather. It shivers the air and goes flat, like a thrown pebble losing nerve. Nate and I trade a look that says we both heard it, and both chose, for one heartbeat, to stay inside the soft. Then we stand together. Could be noise, he offers. It isn't, I answer, and we nod, partners at the edge of a page turning. We log the anomaly and guard the quiet a few minutes longer, because quiet like this is a ration too. I breathe the Argon cadence. He follows. The core hum dips to match, or it doesn't. Either way, we learn the sound of being safe with someone, and the discipline of not naming it too soon. On our second circuit, I find his hand resting on the console where mine will pass. I set mine there on purpose. It's not a secret now. It's a choice. It doesn't need witnesses. It needs us. If anyone asks what changed tonight, I could list tasks completed, faults corrected, power conserved. I could name the exact moment the coupler took and the diagnostic line smoothed. I could report that we acted within parameters. Or I could tell the truth. We took off our gloves to fix a small, vital thing and discovered that silence says enough when you listen with your hands. Morning is a pale bruise pressed against the baffles when the ping arrives. Not weather. Not geology. A tone with teeth. It threads the relay hum and bites down until the cave flinches. Carter is on his feet before his breath catches up. External acquisition sweep, he says, because he likes facts better than hope. Dr. Lee's jaw tightens. Nate's eyes meet mine, a quick strike of understanding. It's not a random scan. It is a hand, reaching. The second ping is narrower, coated with a lazy confidence I know too well. Argon, but not ours. Not the kind that saves. Hunters. They dress their greed in contract language. Retrieval of assets, liability mitigation, return to authorized custody. You can fit a human life inside those words and never leave a bruise. Say it. I tell the old part of me that still writes reports. They want me? They want an Argon specimen, Carter corrects, as if that helps. He scrubs a hand over his face. We need to split. We cut a trail they can follow and a trail they can't. Mira, safest if you stay. Brooks, you take the decoy sled. Lee with me. We hold the mouth and call Earth Fleet to... No, Nate says, like the word is a tool he finally gets to use. Calm. Decided. We're not feeding her to procedure. The ping kisses the threshold again. Closer. Cocky. Someone out there has a lock on the coolant signature we smelled last night. And the crash was not an accident, but a marker. A lure. Discovery 1. The hunters aren't just here by contract. They were invited. Someone on Earth signed a quiet paper trading Argon bodies for tech rights. I don't need the document to see the shape of it. The air tastes like ink. They will have a nest of drones in the ravine, I say. Short range, tethered to a central brain. They'll throw echoes to flush any warm body that runs. They will pretend to be merciful. They will not be. Carter looks at me as if I've confessed to a crime. You sure know a lot about their playbook. I was trained to write it, I answer. The admission feels like shaking a chain to hear if it still rattles. It does. Nate leans over the relay like it owes him rent. We have a spare loop on the tracking array, right? Carter blinks. We do. But it's for breaking things clean, Nate says. He gives me that half smile, the one that looks like a decision cutting through fog. Mira, can you retune the beacon to ghost our signatures? Give them all the wrong good news? I can. It's an ugly trick in the right hands. I used to be the right hands for uglier things. I pull the panel open and feed the relay a new personality. A scatter of warm bodies sprinting the opposite direction. A convoy of sleds where we aren't. A soft, irresistible breadcrumb trail. The core bristles at the lie and then purrs, convinced. Discovery 2. The relay isn't just a machine. It has a protective protocol threaded in. Someone hit a guardian instinct in the firmware. It peaks when I speak in Argon cadence. It answers me like it remembers a better command tree. Dr. Lee, Nate says, already moving. Pack medical and burn anything with Mira's prints. Carter, when we blow the spare loop, you go loud. Argue with the storm. Call Earth Fleet with your biggest voice. And you, Carter challenges, but his eyes have softened around the flint. He's a decent man painted in harsh light. Us, Nate corrects, and the pronoun rewires the room. We take the old service tunnel along the ice canyon to the Pathfinder grab point. Drones won't risk the overhang. Carter swears like a prayer. That tunnel hasn't been used since before I was petty. You fall wrong, you're a folktale. I won't, Nate says, and then to me, quieter. You okay with folktales? I am more than okay. I am suddenly alive. We move. Dr. Lee wipes our prints from mugs and tools with a greedy flame. Carter shoulders the decoy sled and checks the detonator on the spare loop. the thing that will make the hunters stupid for a handful of minutes. Nate hands me a slim pack and a coil of anchor line. His fingers brush mine in a touch that gathers itself like a vow. Outside the baffle, the world wants to be a single, lethal color. We cross the threshold and are swallowed by it. The canyon is a white mouth opening, then narrowing to a throat ribboned with old ice scars. The wind claws and misses. Our headlamps paint the overhang into a low sky we can almost trust. Echoes, I say, as a shadow flickers too consistently above the ridge. Don't look up. They teach the eyes to be foolish. Nate's hand finds my wrist. Our clip bites and holds. We move in that linked stride that is half survival, half dance. At the first switchback, the ice sings under us. Thin, old, a held breath. He goes first, weight low, keg of muscle and will, and sets anchors like he is stitching a wound shut. I follow, stepping exactly where he stepped, letting my fear be bored by the work. A drone dips, silver like a coin, and purrs a human voice that has never belonged to a human. Mira, it says in my rank title, Curator requests your safe return. Compensations will be generous. My mouth remembers the correct reply. Acknowledge, comply. Kneel. I spit into the wind instead. It comes back as ice. Discovery. 3. The curator is not just an overseer. She is here by proxy, listening through a leased network, leaning on old bonds she thinks still bind. She expects me to fold because folding used to be my proof of worth. The relay decoy hits their net. The ravine fills with false footfalls and laughing warmth. Drones pivot like gulls following a trawler. The central brain, confident and underpaid, chases ghosts. For 9 breaths, the canyon belongs to us. Now, Nate says, and hurls the detonator over the edge. The spare loop pops. Not showy, just a clean break that turns their elegant math into junk. The echo trap doubles and redoubles. The drones argue with their mother, a chorus of obedient machines suddenly discovering adolescence. In the middle of that confusion, we slip under the overhang and into the mouth of the service tunnel. It smells like old resin and colder time. My headlamp licks frost runes on the wall, maintenance glyphs in a dialect that belonged to another expedition, another dream. I read them on the fly. Left branch flooded, right branch stable. Ladder missing 2 rungs at the 3rd turn. Mind your ego. Nate snorts when I translate. Even cave graffiti wants us humble. We descend. The tunnel's belly narrows until our packs scrape. The ice sweats in slow, fat tears. Somewhere above, a drone screams a predator's frustration. Somewhere ahead, a beacon whispers, Pathfinder. The old orbital tug that can still blink a grab field if you kiss it with the right code. I have the code. It is written in a part of me I once thought erased. At the lower vent, vapor curls like ghosts of choices. The wind becomes a rumor. The world holds its breath. Nate turns to me and offers his hand, glove open, palm steady as a home. No flourish, no speech, just the tool he has always been. Honesty. With me? He asks. The old system in my head tries one last invoice. Costs, penalties, lost rank, the soft thread of a life in a cage called safety. I look at his hand, and the ledger burns down to 1 line. With you, I say, and put my fingers into his like I am choosing my own name. We step into the vent. Above us, the drones finally locate the decoy's lie and realize it. They wheel in angry geometry. The curator's voice loses its calm and shows its teeth. Contracts fail when you light them on fire. The Pathfinder's hatch yawns like a tired mouth as the grab field kisses our suits. The lift is a smooth hunger. The tunnel drops away. Then the canyon. Then the mountain pretending to be invincible. The baffles. The amber cave. Carter's stubbornness. Dr. Lee's small mercies. All of it shrinks to a tight ache, I promise myself, is not goodbye, only distance. The hatch seals. Air presses in, warm and chemical. The scent of machines that keep their promises. Nate's visor fogs and clears. He squeezes my hand once, a pulse that says, we did the brave thing, and now we must do the hard thing. I am not asset, not specimen, not command. I am a person who chose. I feel the chain go slack and fall. Outside, the hunters spin in their own echo, trapped by the noise they made for others. Inside, we take off our helmets and become something that requires no rank. Two adults breathing the same air by choice. Frostfall recedes. The relay hum, distant now, steadies like a heart we left and still carry. Ahead, the black between worlds opens its patient road. We don't promise the future. We grip the rail and each other and leave the names that used to own us in the snow.